Apologize to agencies. How do you apologize to the agencies and you continue to harass them? So some of these things we are going to be dealing with.
And there can be no greater madaraka for any Kenyan than the madaraka to be able to participate in decision-making systems of your country, including the budget-making process, including the finance bill that will determine what happens in this country. NJERI is one of the heroes and heroines of this country that we need to celebrate, not to incarcerate, not to harass, because she was facilitating public participation. And in her own very ingenious way, in a very creative way, she had facilitated many Kenyans to interact.
3 individuals alleged to be employed by the Trans Nzoia County government were arrested by plain-clothed officers after Governor George Natembea's hearing outside the Milimani Law Courts on Tuesday. The 3 were apprehended moments after Justice Zipporah Gishana, during the court session, ordered the prosecution to disclose evidence against Natembea's graft charges. Natembea is facing 3 counts: 1, unlawful acquisition of public property, conflict of interest, and indirectly benefiting from public funds. The prosecution was ordered to disclose all relevant materials on or before June 16th, when the matter will be mentioned. The directive follows an admission by the prosecution that it had failed to comply with an earlier court order regarding the disclosure of evidence.
Further, that the decision to charge was well within the ODPP's policy on the same. The application is opposed by counsel for the defendants. They state that the delay caused in the disclosure taken in light of the clamor around the first accused's arrest is a travesty of justice. The defense also protests that the subsequent visits by the investigators to the first accused office and county offices have been done without disclosing to the counsel of such visits. They are apprehensive that the surreptitious visits may be used by the investigators to plant evidence against their clients. The court did give thorough directions on disclosure. It is clear that the prosecution has not been able to do so. Although they state that they were given an onerous task on the nature of the disclosure, it is imperative for all parties to ensure that they comply with the court orders as strictly as possible.
I'm not happy with what is happening in the Republic of Kenya, especially with unlawful arrests, victimization, intimidations, harassments that are occurring now and then. This is our country. Let us respect our constitution. Our President, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, had to swear 2 oaths. First oath and the second oath. He must be able to protect our Kenyan constitution. He must be able to protect the entire citizens. But what is happening in the Republic of Kenya actually is very horrible. Now, once it continues like this, are we going to encourage the local investors? Are we going to encourage the international investors or foreign investors? This is very bad. Now, what about to a local mwananchi? Someone who is voiceless, someone who doesn't have anyone to defend him or her. Where shall he go to?
Well, grief and sorrow have engulfed Kinoyo village in Rongai area following the discovery of 2 mutilated bodies of Simon Yego, a Probox driver, and Kipietich, a 22-year-old, after being abducted by unknown people. A female passenger who was with Yego and who was released said they were interrogated about the death of Father Alois Bet. The 2 men were found brutally murdered and their bodies dumped along the Mogotia-Kipkitur Road in the Menengai area with their hands chopped off. Nakuru County Sub-County Commander Cecilia Kemboi confirmed the news, stating that the victims could have been killed elsewhere before being dumped at the scene.
Vijana wetu waliweza kuwa abducted, tumewatafuta na mwishowe we have ended up in the mortuary. So tuko na huzuni sana. Wale wali abduct wandugu zetu ni watu wa serikali ambaye wanatumia ambulance. Moja Kibiatich alitolewa kwa kitanda, Tot Health Center, alikuwa ameenda treatment ya malaria, akatolewa kwa kitanda. Wa pili Simon Yego Chacha alikuwa kwa biashara yake, akasimamishwa kwa gari yake na akachukuliwa. That Friday tumepata hawa watu kwa mochari hapa, wako na alama ya tocha, wameteswa sana, na to make matters worst wamekata mikono. They have no arms. I mean the hands have been cut. Hapa kwa wrist wote wawili. Kuna one passenger alikuwa kwa hiyo gari. Huyo ndio alikuja kutupatia hiyo report kwamba jamaa amechukuliwa. Huyo msichana anasema aliulizwa, do you know the people who killed the priest who was killed? Huyo akasema hapana.
We were given the opportunity ya kufeel hiyo mili, and we identified kwamba ni hao watu wetu. We are really saddened kama familia, and we really hope something will need to be done because Keriofale is bleeding seriously.
Sasa watu wakikatwa hivi ya kinyama, haki inapatikana? Hiyo tena swali yetu kwa serikali. Tunataka tu uchunguzi ifanywe na sisi kama familia.
Calls to justice have been made for baby Tamara Kabura, and they dominated the speeches at her final send-off held at the Solio village in Laikipia County 9 days after her body was found buried at the main suspect's house in the Witemere area of Majengo slums in NJERI County. The cruel killing of the 7-year-old sparked outrage among locals who now want an overhaul of the Nyumba Kumi administrators in the area, accusing them of complicity in covering up crimes and protecting perpetrators of sexual abuse to children within the slums. Julius Masharia, the main suspect, is in police custody pending conclusion of investigations and is set to appear in court on June 10th.
So much you are gone, but I'm grateful for the time we shared together. You never said I'm leaving. You never said goodbye, but only God knows why. You brought so much joy and happiness to our class, and we'll never forget you.
Your story is not forgotten. Your strength echoes in every step we take to seek justice you were denied. You live in every fight for truth, in every cry for fairness, in every refusal to be silenced.
Natoa onyo kwa wanaume. Tafadhali ndugu zangu, wewe ikiwa uko na tatizo lolote, usimfikirie mtoto, kwa sababu tukikuchukua tutakufanyia kisheria.
Now, the Central Organization of Trade Unions, COTU, has raised an alarm over the possible misuse of the housing levy after the parliament made a raft of regulations. In a statement on Tuesday, COTU noted that the affordable housing regulations will introduce a loophole that could allow members of parliament to channel housing levy funds into projects that fall outside the core mandate of providing decent and affordable housing for Kenyan workers. COTU added that the regulations will undermine the initial intention of introducing the levy to provide decent houses to Kenyan workers. The union has now called for President William Ruto's intervention, calling for an immediate halt to the process of implementing the regulations. It also wants a fresh participation process to be initiated to redraft the regulations to safeguard the purpose and the integrity of the affordable housing levy. All right, still speaking on matters houses, President William Ruto has announced that 20% of housing units under the affordable housing program will be set aside for members of the disciplined forces. In a statement on Tuesday, Ruto said members of the Kenya Defence Forces, the National Police Service, the National Youth Service, and the Kenya Prison Service will benefit from their allocation. In addition, Ruto announced favorable financing options tailored specifically for the officers to ease their path to home ownership. Notably, this comes 2 days after Ruto announced a plan to introduce new reforms that will give Kenyans contributing to the housing levy access to affordable home loans.
As part of our policy program, 20% of whole housing units being developed under affordable housing across the country will be ring-fenced for members of our disciplined forces from the military, the National Police Service, the Kenya prisons, and the National Youth Service. In addition, these officers will benefit from affordable financing through single-digit interest rates, as low as 3% for those who will buy social housing, 6% for those who will buy affordable housing, and 9% for those who will want to buy the high market houses. In addition, these officers will also benefit from what currently we are developing. Aside from what you see in this compound, through the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, we are delivering institutional housing for disciplined forces across the country. Currently, 2,300 units, specifically for police and prison officers, are under construction across 15 counties, including Tharaka Nithi, Bungoma, Tana River, Nyandarua, Mandera, Machakos, Uasin Gishu, and of course here in Nairobi. I was with Kanja in Tharaka Nithi the other day to hand over units for our policemen and women, so that either you have a facility to buy a house, to own, or you are staying in a building, in a police station that is not what we have seen before, that is decent and that is livable.
Azerbaijan has officially inaugurated its embassy premises in Nairobi as the two countries, Kenya and Azerbaijan, marked 2 decades of diplomatic relations. The move underscores deepening ties and exploring new avenues for collaboration and will act as a significant realignment on furthering bilateral discussions between Kenya and Azerbaijan. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi accompanied the Minister of Foreign Affairs Jehun Beiramov at the inauguration ceremony and said Kenya is looking forward to expand the areas of collaboration with the country in the near future. Since its establishment in 2023, the Azerbaijan embassy in Kenya has been an important link in facilitating engagement between countries, or the two countries, thus strengthening Nairobi's standing as a regional diplomatic hub.
Your Excellency, I'd like to highlight the successful inaugural Kenya-Azerbaijan bilateral political consultations, which were held in Nairobi last month, chaired by our Principal Secretary and your Deputy Foreign Minister. The discussions revolved around a wide range of topics, including trade and investment, agriculture, energy, education, defense, industry, multilateral cooperation, and peace and security. Kenya commits to implementing the agreed action points, including accelerating the finalization of pending Memoranda of Understanding and initiating MOUs in ICT, education, and defense. I take cognizance of our shared priorities in global governance, particularly those relating to climate change. Kenya commends and congratulates Azerbaijan for successfully hosting COP29 in Baku, bringing the world together to discuss and make decisions on critical topics touching on climate, financing, and carbon markets.
We celebrated the 20th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between our countries, and reviewing to these previous 20 years, we can say that these years are the years of friendship, mutual respect, sharing similar values, and very active support to each other's just and fair position on the framework of international organizations.
There was joy and anxiety in Busia after a 24-year-old woman delivered quadruplets at the Busia Referral Hospital. The children were safely delivered and are now under the care of the hospital's doctors. Speaking at the hospital, the mother, Gentrick Souma, who now has 6 children, said that although she was happy, she was worried about how she would raise the children, given she already has 2 other kids. Ouma has called on well-wishers to support her in any way they can to lighten the load.
Nimejifungua watoto wanne. 2 boys, 2 girls. Nasikia vizuri, Mungu amenisaidia. Nimejifungua vizuri. Nimejifungua leo watoto siku ya madaraka, nimepata zawadi. Nimeshukuru. Naomba mnisaidie kwa tena. Naomba mnisaidie kulea watoto asifanyange kazi. Niko na wawili wako nyumbani alafu hawana na watoto 6. Nitaita mtoto wangu jina moja Madaraka, ndio nitakuwa namkumbukia yako.
Well, God said multiply and fill the earth, right? So that's exactly what Gentrix has done. We congratulate her on her 4 children, now total 6. Now, the National Syndemic Disease Council or Control Council is stepping up sensitization efforts to mitigate the risks of HIV and AIDS and hepatitis infection among people who inject drugs. The council wants people who inject drugs as prevention champions and change agents at the community level through a peer-to-peer approach. Former or recovering PWIDs will be equipped with knowledge on HIV and hepatitis transmission, harm reduction, and how to access healthcare services. The move is also aimed at reducing stigma through the creation of sustainable change. According to the council, Mombasa has made significant progress in reducing new infections in the past decade, achieving a 65% decline in new HIV infections from 1,778 in 2013 to 631 in 2023.
Tumeita vijana hao tuweze kuongelesha hao wakuwe champion, waweze kwenda kuongea na wenzao, wasijifiche, wajitokeze. Hao ni watoto wetu, sisi tumewazaa, ni watu wazuri katika jamii. Tunataka kuwaelimisha hao watoke kwa hiyo jangwa na hizo shida, waweze kuelimisha pia wenzao, ndio siku za usoni waweze kuwa watu muhimu katika hii society. Wasikuwe ni watu wanakuwa discriminated, wanawekwa kando. Kama serikali tunataka kuwaleta karibu, tuongeleshe hao wakuwe champion for the rest. Waweze kwenda kuongelesha wale wengine, waambie hawa hii ni mbaya,
ili waweze kutoka katika hiyo tunaita addiction na haya madawa. Lakini tumegundua kuwa katika maisha yao na vyote hao vijana wanayopitia, si kupatiwa matibabu tu na kuweza kuacha kutumia mihadarati. Baada ya hapo nini zaidi? Hawa bado ni vijana wadogo, bado wako na maisha yao, bado ni vijana ambao wengine ni ndugu, wengine ni mababa, wengine ni vijana katika jamii zetu. Vipi tutaweza kuwasaidia ili waweze kurudi kushikamana katika jamii?
So ukitaka kupunguza maambukizi ya HIV uwezi watenga. Lazima hakikisha kwamba hatua ziwekwe kuhakikisha kwamba umewafikia, ili wale ambao bado wako kule nje waje wapate mafunzo ili waanze kuacha. But ili kufikia hutaenda moja kwa moja, utapitia wale wenzao champions, itakuwa rahisi zaidi.
Ambao mimi ni mmoja wa wale ambao tuliweza kujikomboa kwenye minyororo ya mihadarati, na nafanya kazi ya kuwasaidia wenzangu through real life experience ambayo nimepitia mimi mwenyewe. Kama shirika tofauti tumeshirikiana hapa, lakini kuna mambo ambayo hatuwezi kuyasoma kwa vitabu, ndio maana tuko na wale ambao waliweza kujinasua kutoka kwenye minyororo ya mihadarati.
All right, 19 minutes past the hour mark. Allow us to take a quick breather. We'll be back shortly with more news making headlines. Don't go too far. Residents of Bungoma Town and businessmen have Bungoma County. Residents led by Juma Lubakaya have said they are saddened by the incident in which the railway's land in which they were evicted about 3 years ago has been fenced off by a private investor. They say that since being evicted from the farm by the railways company, they have been struggling to meet the needs of their families, calling on county leaders and the national government to intervene and save public property.
Punde si punde kidogo tukaona matrakta na watu ya Kenya reri na maaskari chungu mzima, polisi wa reri, wanakuja kufurusha watu hapa. Vitu sikapomolewa, wakasema ya kwamba hii uwanja ni ya reri na wamefukuza land grabbing, na reri yenyewe ndiye ilikuwa imepatiana wale watu ambao walikuwa hapa, ndiye ilikuwa imewapatia lease. Na hapo reri yenyewe ndiye inakuja kuwafukuza ya kwamba land grabbing. Sasa tunataka kuuliza serikali ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa His Excellency William Ruto, Deputy President Professor Kindiki, waziri wa usalama Mheshimiwa Murkomen, tunataka kuwauliza na mheshimiwa wa viwanda katika national government, tunataka kuwauliza huyu mtu ambaye amekuja hapa, mwekezaji huyu amekuja hapa kufence hii uwanja yote, yeye ni nani Kenya?
Nataka tu watu wawili ndio watatueleza kuhusu hii maneno. Hata sitaki maneno ya EACC. Hii shamba mtu mwenye anatakana atueleze ni nani, ni Mr. Wetangula ama Lusaka. Hao ndio wanajua ni nani amejificha hapa. Kwa sababu hao ndio wako kwa uongozi, si hao ndio wako mbele. So mbona tuende kwa EACC na viongozi wetu wako wenye tuliweka mbele walinde rasilimali ya Bungoma. Shamba kama hii wakitangaza kama ni Kenya Railways inataka kulease, watangaze. Hata mimi siwezi kosa pesa ya kulease kashamba hata hapa Kakwota. Pia mimi niweke project yangu kwa sababu mimi ni investor katika hii mji ya Bungoma. Ni
issue ya kusema kwamba watu wafanyie hapa hata kama ni parking ya tuktuk ama wanaweza piki hapa watu wakienda, ilikuwa ni ngumu. Watuambia kwamba hii shamba ina wenyewe. Sasa kwenyewe mimi ninapoangalia nyuma na pale ni mtu mmoja ambaye amefence from kuanzia kwa ile former supermarket hadi paka juu around 3 acres, ambapo tuktuk kama mimi kama chairman wao, tuktuk hapa kama zingekuwa hata kama ni 100 zingekuwa zinafanya kazi depending na ile ushuru ambao wanalipa. So ninaomba hata national government waangalie kwamba kweli kama tuna mambo na ushuru na mambo ya bottom up.
Now to sports, a number of international athletes from the just concluded Kipkeino Classic 2025 had a unique experience away from the running track, taking to the wild expanses of Nairobi National Park over the weekend. The athletes drawn from various countries were treated to breathtaking views of Kenya's iconic wildlife at the Nairobi National Park in what is part of the Kenya Tourism Board's broader initiative to leverage sporting events for destination promotion and establish Kenya as a premier sports tourism destination. With the Kipkeino Classic being a premier athletics event that displayed the pinnacle of the country's sporting excellence, the familiarization trip by KTB sought to present a different facet of Kenya's allure beyond its reputation as a powerhouse in long-distance running.
I was actually planning for it, so I booked my flight a little later just to see some wildlife, and I think this is something that's Kenya really well known for in the whole world. I love nature. I'm from the countryside, so I really wanted to see it, and we've been very lucky this morning already.
That the host for this meet actually put on arranged for us to go out and see some wildlife. I lived in Namibia for 2 years when I was younger, so I always loved safari, and I think it's so cool to come out here and get to experience that again. It's a really unique national park because it's in the city, so it's really close and very available for everyone. No, I just had a really good time. We got to see almost all the animals that they have to offer, so it's a really cool experience.
I think that's absolutely brilliant from the Ministry of Sports and the Ministry of Tourism to just ensure that as the athletes come in the country, because they're coming from various countries, they're able to really witness what is within Nairobi, especially being the only city actually around the world with a national park within the capital. That's a brilliant move. And if we continue on that trajectory, then we're going to attract a lot of tourists in the country, so we're happy about that. Thank you for watching tonight. Our sign language interpreter is Laura Omondi. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night. God bless.